Coming up on today's Philadelphia 76ers now, former NBA All-Star Jeff Teague and former teammate of Paul George sounds off on PG and Joel Embiid on his podcast. Plus, are the Sixers one of the dirtiest teams in the NBA? Rotowire doing a study of the dirtiest teams of the past decade. The Sixers rank surprisingly high, but there's a reason for that I will explain coming up here on today's show. Before we get into that, I love to ask this question. Where are you guys watching from? We people that watch the show from all across the U.S. and all across the globe. I love to see where everybody is tuned in from. So shout out your city down in the comments section. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm going to go down, read through all of those comments. So let's start here with the latest on Jeff Teague. For those who don't know, Jeff Teague, probably most known for playing for the Atlanta Hawks, where he was a one-time All-Star when that Hawks team had all those All-Stars back in the mid-2010s. A good player for Atlanta, but today best known probably for his podcast, the Club 520 podcast, where, man, he tells some crazy stories about his playing days in the NBA. He's not afraid to speak his mind and give his opinion, as a lot of these former NBA players who now do podcasts are the same way. But Teague is hilarious, and I think he tells a lot of great and funny stories. But, as I said, not afraid to speak his mind. And just the other day in his podcast, Paul George and the 76ers came up. Now, Jeff Teague, I mentioned best known for playing for the Atlanta Hawks. Back in 2016, he was traded from the Hawks to the Pacers. In that trade, Pacers point guard George Hill was sent out to Utah. George Hill was a fan favorite for Indiana with those Paul George, Lance Stephenson, Roy Hibbert teams that are going toe-to-toe with LeBron James and the Miami Heat back in the early 2010s. So a lot of Pacers fans didn't love the idea of Teague coming in, replacing fan favorite George Hill. And Teague revealed in his podcast that when he got traded there to Indiana, he didn't talk to Paul George for 4 months until another teammate had to basically force them to speak. And then they were cool for a little bit. And then when Teague left, he says him and Paul George have not talked since. So not on great terms. And he didn't hold back his feelings on Paul George and Joel Embiid this season. Said that straight up. Paul George is cooked. PG is cooked. He was the third option last year. It's a great chance he's going to be hurt this year. It's just for real. They'll be at full strength the first game of the season. In game 2, Embiid, Paul George are going to be out. Embiid is going to have 20 points that first game. Then he'll sit out for the next 2 games. Then after that one, he'll be out for the next 40 games. Then he's going to be done. Look, Jeff Teague, of course he's saying, things for reactions and to get clicks and to get people like me to talk about it, right? But, a former NBA player who has some ties to Paul George really coming out and not mincing words regarding PG. Look, is it the craziest thing to have that kind of take, that kind of opinion that Paul George and Embiid are not going to have success this year after what happened last year? No, I think it's an easy thing to say and, to get reactions and clicks to say that they're not going to be healthy and that there's no chance that this team has any chance this season. But look, for Paul George and Joel Embiid, at least in Embiid's case, I think I have a little more confidence in him this year with what we've seen recently of the pictures and the one clip of him working out without a brace in the knee. He looks skinny. He looks to be in good shape, even though his history might be a bit more troubling. Paul George, though, the older player, and I'm a little bit worried that because he is older and he was, at least more healthy than Embiid last season, even when he was healthy, he did kind of look a little cooked. But at the same time, we're just a couple of years removed from his last year with the Clippers, where he had a really good season, right? One of the best years of his career, and did stay healthy. So, look, Teague, I get it, maybe not in the best terms with Paul George, and wants to go out there and say that this team is cooked. I'm not fully on board that George and Embiid are 100% cooked. We're only a couple weeks away from the start of preseason basketball. Doubt these guys play, but look, once the season starts, this talk doesn't matter at all. We'll see what happens out there on the court. Who are you more worried about heading into this season? I'm definitely more worried about Paul George, actually. I do have some confidence in Embiid this season to have a bounce-back year. But who are you more worried about? Joel Embiid, type JE, Paul George, type PG, and you can explain your reasoning down below in the comments section. Now, coming up next, are the Sixers the dirtiest team in the NBA? I mentioned Rotowire did a ranking based only off numbers and statistics on the dirtiest teams in the league, the Sixers wound up pretty high in those rankings, but there's a good reason and excuse for that. Before we get to those rankings, this 76ers snapback hat with a throwback logo on the side, the Philadelphia 76ers script across the front, and the city skyline across the front, that rope-style hat. It is a beautiful hat. I already ordered mine. You can tell I'm a big hat guy. Love to wear hats on the show, off the show, wherever I go. And to rep the Sixers wearing a fresh hat like this, couldn't pass up the opportunity, especially because these hats are going fast. When I bought one, there was only 11 left. So you got to get your hands on these before it is too late. Chatsports.com/Sixers hat. You go to that link. It'll take you over to Fanatics. You can purchase this hat for yourself before it is too late. Again, chatsports.com/Sixers hat. Go get yourself some fresh gear. Again, preseason only a couple of weeks away. Gear up before the start of this upcoming season. So let's get to it. Are the Sixers the dirtiest team in the league? Rotowire went back to the 2015-16 season and compiled data based off suspensions, fines, missed games, all these different things, technical fouls, flagrant fouls, to determine which team over the past 10 plus years has been the dirtiest and has the dirtiest reputation. And the Sixers landed right in the top 5 behind Miami, which is not really a surprise, Brooklyn, Memphis, and Houston. And I was a little bit shocked that the Sixers were considered a top 5 dirty team. Again, this is based solely off of numbers. There's no opinion in this. There's no kind of like, oh, this team just feels like a dirtier team. No, it's based only off some numbers. And the Sixers in these numbers was based off of the amount of fines a team got. And fines, teams get fined for a lot of things, whether that's when a player gets a technical foul. And again, this isn't just like the Sixers getting fined by the NBA. These are their players also getting fined for, missing games or getting a technical foul, which you have to pay a fine for, or fighting on the court or having off-court issues. A lot of reasons a player can get fined. They were 7th in total fines with 370. But look at this number. Fine total, the amount of all those fines over the past 10 years, the Sixers were number 1, over $18 million in fines. And we'll get to that number here in just a moment. They were 11th in total suspensions with 5. 11 seems like a high ranking, but only 5 suspensions over the last 10 years. Not a huge number. Total games suspended, 9. So 22nd again. Not really ranking too high in these categories, which is why I was surprised the Sixers ranked so high overall. But when you look at the highest fine totals over the past 10 years, this is the real reason why the Sixers are top 5 in this ranking. $18.1 million in fines. That's how much the Sixers have been fined over the past 10 years, players, all that. The Nets, not too far behind at $16 million. This is not a typo. After that, it falls down to just $1.9 million for the third place Warriors. So why in the world have the Sixers and their players been fined $18 million in the past 10 years when all these other teams, for the most part, outside of Brooklyn, which has a connection to Philadelphia in this instance, why are they that much higher than everybody else? Well, it's not necessarily because the Sixers are a dirty team. That's why I don't love the concept of this ranking, because I've seen it on Twitter. I had my dad, who's actually a Knicks fan, reach out to me and say, man, the Sixers, they're a real dirty team. We saw it in the playoffs with Joel Embiid trying to take out Mitchell Robinson, right? It's not really the case, right? This ranking isn't indicative of that. The reason the Sixers are so high and they're paying all these fines is because Ben Simmons, when he held out that 1 year before he ended up going to Brooklyn, which is also why Brooklyn is very high on that list, totaled 82 fines for $17 million. He lost out on that much money because of the games he was holding out of because he did not want to play for the Sixers. That is why the Sixers' fine number is that high. Not because players were getting in fights or getting ejected or getting flagrant fouls or doing actual dirty things on the court that you would consider to be a dirty team. It was because Ben Simmons didn't feel like playing basketball. And that's also why the Nets are up on that list as well, because him, along with Kyrie Irving, also accumulated a lot of fines. So $18 million is crazy. That's really dragging up the number. If you took those away, the Sixers would be pretty far down the list. Again, that's 82 fines. The Sixers had a total of, 370? So that drops it to about, 290, which would really drop them down the rankings. And then the $18 million, Ben Simmons was $17 million of that, right? So, again, I saw people talking about this and trying to justify this as a reason for Joel Embiid being a dirty player. Just simply not true. Dig a little deeper into these things, okay? Because it has nothing to do with that, nothing to do with the fact that you might consider Embiid or the Sixers to be a dirty team. It's simply because Ben Simmons did not feel like playing basketball before he left Philadelphia. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Just a couple of quick news items I wanted to hit, especially the Jeff Teague thing kind of caught me off guard because I think he's great at what he does and he's funny and he's taking these shots at the Sixers, man. If you're still here, still hanging out with us, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. The season will be here really before we know it. In just about a month and some change, the Sixers will kick off the 2025-2026 season against the Boston Celtics. You're not going to want to miss anything going on with your 76ers. So lock us in, hit that sub button, and we'll see you next time right here on 76ers Now.